The day the lawsuit landed on Tom Bradley's doorstep, he was elbow-deep in a batch of cinnamon walnut scones, the kitchen thick with the scent of butter and spice. The envelope hit the floor with a dull thud, a sound that carried more weight than it should have, like a gauntlet thrown down by an invisible foe. He wiped his hands on a flour-dusted apron, picked up the packet, and saw the words Homeowners Association v. Thomas Bradley stamped in crisp, officious ink. Outside, Linda Voss stood on his lawn, arms crossed, a clipboard dangling from one hand like a scepter. Her lips were pressed into a thin line, her yoga pants pristine, her posture screaming petty authority. Tom opened the door, a wooden spoon still in his grip, and met her stare. "Your shed," she said, her voice clipped, "is an eyesore. It's disrupting the neighborhood's aesthetic harmony." Tom blinked, glancing past her at the modest shed in his backyard painted a soft sage green, a color his late wife, Marie, had picked out years ago. "It's a shed," he said flatly. Linda pointed at a faint scratch on the door, no bigger than a dime. "That's a violation," she declared, scribbling something on her clipboard. That's when it hit him. This wasn't just a neighbor with too much time. This was a suburban dictator in stretch fabric, and she'd just declared war. Tom had moved into Willow Creek 6 months earlier, chasing a quieter life after 40 years as a mechanic. He'd sold his old place in the city, packed up his tools and his mutt, rusty, and settled into this postcard-perfect neighborhood of white fences and manicured lawns. The HOA had seemed like a perk on paper-organized potlucks, a promise of order. He'd imagined tinkering in his shed, maybe fixing up old radios or building birdhouses, a retirement project to honor Marie's memory. She'd always teased him about his hands, callous from engines, but gentle enough to braid her hair. "You're a fixer, Tom," she'd say. "In another life, you'd build something beautiful." He'd laughed it off then, but now, in this new house with its oversized shed, he'd started to believe her. Linda had appeared the day he arrived, her handshake cold and her smile tighter than a drum. "Welcome to Willow Creek," she'd said, her name tag reading President, HOA. "We don't tolerate loud music, garish lawn ornaments, or unapproved exterior modifications. Tasteful is our standard." Tom had nodded, juggling a box of tools, and quipped, "Does a shed full of screws count as garish?" She hadn't laughed. The first warning came a week later, after he'd painted the shed. Sage green wasn't on the HOA's approved color card, a laminated monstrosity of beiges and grays Linda carried like a holy relic. She'd shown up with a tape measure, her nose wrinkled, and handed him a notice. Repaint within 14 days or face fines. He'd offered her a cup of coffee. She declined like it was laced with arsenic. The notices piled up. A dent in the shed's trim became structural noncompliance. A potted fern on his porch was excessive vegetation. Each envelope arrived with a photo, the offending item circled in red like evidence from a crime scene. Tom called the HOA hotline once, got Linda's voicemail. "Hi, this is Linda, your community standards advocate. Beauty starts with obedience," and left a message that ended with a muttered rant about screws and tyranny. He didn't fight back, not then. Instead, he retreated to his shed, pulling out his old toolbox and a stack of Marie's handwritten recipes she'd tucked into a tin box. She loved baking cookies, pies, anything that filled the house with warmth. He'd started with her oatmeal raisin cookies, fumbling through the steps, the shed slowly transforming into a workshop of flour and sugar instead of metal and grease. Then came the lawsuit. Linda's claim, his shed's unauthorized modifications and reckless distribution of baked goods were a blight on Willow Creek's harmony. The phrase emotional sabotage of community spirit jumped out from the legal jargon, absurd enough to make him laugh. He was kneading dough when he read it, and the absurdity fueled something reckless in him. If Linda wanted to fight over his shed, he wouldn't hire a lawyer. He'd fight with flour. 3 days later, Tom turned the shed into a battlefield. He dragged out a workbench, rigged up a propane stove, and hung a sign his son, Jake, helped him paint, Rebel Repairs and Pastries. The logo was a wrench crossed with a rolling pin, dripping with icing. He didn't plan to sell anything, not at first. He baked a batch of Marie's lemon bars, set up a folding table, and started handing them out. The mail carrier took two. A jogger stopped, grinned, and said they were better than store-bought. By noon, a small crowd had gathered, neighbors he'd barely met, drawn by the smell drifting through the streets like a siren call. They lingered, swapped stories, laughed. A widow named Ruth said the bars reminded her of her mother's kitchen. A kid with a skateboard asked for seconds. It wasn't just about the food. It was about something Linda's rules had starved out of Willow Creek connection. Linda marched over that afternoon, her HOA polo crisp, her clipboard bristling with citations. "You can't operate a business here," she snapped, loud enough for the crowd to hear. Tom leaned on the table, a tray of fresh muffins in hand, and said, "It's not a business, Linda. It's a rebellion." She scribbled furiously and stormed off. The next day, a video of the standoff hit the internet, shaky footage of Tom in a grease-stained apron, Linda's clipboard waving like a flag of surrender. HOA Tyrant versus Chet Baker racked up 300,000 views overnight. A local DJ called it the sweetest uprising since the Boston Tea Party. Tom didn't own a smartphone, but Jake showed him the comments. "This guy's a legend. Can I order a dozen? Death to HOAs." The shed became a beacon. Every morning, Tom baked scones, tarts, whatever Marie's recipes whispered to him. Neighbors showed up with coffee, folding chairs, even a guitar one guy strummed while others waited. A single mom named Carla brought her twins, who drew chalk murals of cookies on the driveway. An old vet named Hank traded war stories for a slice of pecan pie. Linda retaliated with a health department complaint, but the inspector, a burly guy named Dave, spent 20 minutes inspecting, then bought a turnover and said, "This is cleaner than my grandma's kitchen. You're fine." He winked as he left, powdered sugar on his mustache. The lawsuit loomed, but Tom didn't flinch. The neighborhood rallied. Jake designed flyers, grand opening, rebel repairs, and pastries defy the HOA, one bite at a time. Saturday dawned crisp and bright, the shed glowing with string lights Tom had strung up the night before. By 7 a.m., a line stretched around the block, people in robes, kids with dogs, a teen who'd named Tom's blueberry muffins Freedom Bombs. Linda rolled up in her SUV at 9:30, sunglasses gleaming, clipboard in tow. "This ends now," she barked, shoving a citation under his nose. Tom handed her a muffin with "Happy Weekend." Linda piped in icing. "Take a bite," he said. She glared, tossed it in the grass, and called the cops. 2 officers arrived, surveyed the scene, 50 people eating pastries, laughing, a boombox playing Sinatra, and shrugged. "No crime here," one said, grabbing a Danish. "Best disturbance call I've had all year." Linda's face turned the color of overripe beets. That night, Tom posted online, sued for scones. "Need help." By morning, his inbox overflowed 200 messages, including one from Ellie Parker, a young lawyer who'd grown up in Willow Creek. "I've dreamed of taking down an HOA bully," she wrote. "I'm in for free." Ellie met him at the shed, a whirlwind of sharp wit and sharper heels. Mid-meeting, Linda stormed in, accusing Ellie of trespassing. Ellie didn't blink. "I'm with my client. File your complaints with the restraining order I'm drafting." Linda sputtered and fled. The neighborhood shifted. A kid painted a wrench on his mailbox. A retiree named Bill built Tom a new counter. The health inspector came back, clean bill again, and left with a bag of cookies. Linda's grip weakened, but she wasn't done. The courtroom was a circus of stale air and tension. Tom sat in a worn flannel, a box of pastries labeled for the jury beside him. The bailiff snagged a scone and grinned. Linda's lawyer, a jittery kid who looked fresh out of law school, rambled about zoning and culinary chaos. Tom stood, handed the judge a health report and cottage industry laws, and said, "I just wanted to fix things and bake, Your Honor. Last I checked, kindness isn't illegal." The judge smirked. Witnesses poured in: Carla, Hank, even a delivery guy who swore Tom's tarts saved his sanity. Then came Margaret Klein, ex-HOA president, wheeled in with steel in her eyes. She exposed Linda's rain rule changes, fines, fear tactics. "Tom's the first to fight back," she said. Linda's case crumbled. The judge ruled, no violations, case dismissed. And these scones are phenomenal, she added, holding one up. The room cheered. Outside, neighbors hugged, planned a bake sale, begged Tom to teach a class. Linda vanished, her SUV a ghost on the street. But 2 days later, health inspectors knocked another Linda ploy. They left with pastries and a laugh. Then came the HOA meeting flyer. Emergency vote ban home baking. Tom went, not to obey but to watch. Linda's speech dripped venom order, standards control. The room bristled. Hank shouted about fines. Carla mentioned her kids' tears. Tom stood. You can't rule with fear, Linda. People deserve joy. The dam broke. A vote was called Linda out, 52-3. Someone nominated Tom. He declined, tapping Margaret instead. She won with a grin. The shed thrived. Kids swept for cookies. A poet read verses. Linda returned one rainy day, bought a scone, sat quietly. Still think your shed's too green, she muttered. Tom chuckled. And you'd make a mean pie if you let go. She laughed small, real and left. Months later, the city gave Tom a Community Spirit Award. He took the plaque, handed out donuts, and went home to bake. The shed glowed, a photo of Marie on the wall, her smile in every bite. Willow Creek wasn't just a neighborhood Anna Maria was alive, stitched together by sugar, defiance, and a man who fixed more than he ever knew. If you were the one in this story, how would you react? Would you stand up and fight back, or accept the unreasonable pressure and control from the HOA? Share your thoughts in the comments below. And don't forget to subscribe, like, and share this VY Deo with more people. Your small action gives us the motivation to keep bringing you more intense and engaging stories. Thanks for watching, and we'll see you in the next VY Deo.